Hi guys, Stealth's wife here and Stealth himself.
Hey guys.
Today we're going to do another SoCards, and the question for today is: if you could go back 10 years and have a conversation with your past self, what would you say? Well, what would you say?
Um, where was I 10 years ago? It's 2019. 10 years ago, I was still starting online marketing. I was studying law and I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. I know that I wasn't happy in law, that was for damn sure. So at that point, I realized that I was not going to be a lawyer or anything like that, or not having anything to do with the law. So if I could go back 10 years, I'd say change career tracks because you're never going to use this law study anyway. And something that is going to become more and more important, and that I'm realizing now, is psychology. That's something that's always fascinated me, human behavior. Maybe it's a defense mechanism to figure out how other people work so they don't. They basically don't hurt me because I've been hurt quite a bit with all the bullying that happened to me. So it could be a sort of defense/control mechanism that way, but it's just that I find people's behavior and nudging and behavioral economics lately very, very interesting. And that's something that I want to progress into with my career. So if I could go back in 10 years and say, hey, what would you say? I would say change career tracks or change law tracks, go from law over to another field, to psychology, to behavioral economics, to economics, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything too narrow, because if it's too narrow, then you're pigeonholed. You've got really no way to go anywhere. And I think that being flexible and adjusting to the future as it develops is far more valuable. So that requires learning and being able to pick up new skills quickly and applying your skills elsewhere. And I think that behavior and psychology is always going to be applicable, whereas let's say machine engineering or something very, very specific might not be as flexible. All right, so that's a long-winded answer. How about you?
Yeah, that's very deep. But would you be the same person you'd be today?
I don't think I'd be the same person, no. Because, I don't know, I think the law, the whole law studies that I did actually put me on this sort of question everything track. And you realize that law, like any other part of life, is just basically a game. You got people's playing roles, and it's a framework, but there's all sort of loopholes, which, yeah, definitely wouldn't be the same.
Welcome to life.
Welcome to life. How about you?
Okay, so if I could go back in for 10 years and have a conversation with my past self, I think I would I would still be in teacher training school. And maybe I would tell myself that don't work so hard, because I basically didn't really have a social life when I was studying. And
You didn't have time for it.
No, we were together then.
It's forever.
I don't know if you noticed, but we were together. I didn't notice, by the way. Yeah, I did. Maybe enjoy life a bit more during your 20s.
What does that look like?
I have no idea because I didn't.
So what would you recommend your at that point
20 years old?
No, we were 21. Yeah.
21. I think yes, your studies are important, but it's also very important that you make friends, that you go out, see the world perhaps. We both haven't been traveling a lot.
No.
And maybe that's something I would change if I could go back 10 years and tell myself that.
Live a little.
Live a little.
Right.
I mean, I'm perfectly happy with the way we live now, but it could have been different.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if it would have been better, but it could have been different.
Different, definitely. Yeah. And something else, this could be interesting as a response. We got married last year in October, and I wouldn't necessarily do the wedding the way that we did it right now, because we spent about 13 grand on that. So that's a hell of a lot of money. I would probably make it a lot smaller, so don't spend the whole day with all the events and the party and the shit. Take, let's say, 10,000 out of your budget and go traveling. That's something that I would recommend myself 10 years ago. But then again, I'm not even sure if I would remember that 9 years later in October 2018. But that's something I would probably recommend myself. Don't spend it all on one day. Just spread it out. Travel together, which does line up with your answer.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Even though I'm a girl, and girls dream of their weddings since they were 4-year-olds, but well, I didn't really have that. But I think I agree with you when you say that we shouldn't have spent so much money on the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Although we had a really great wedding.
We had a great wedding, but was it worth 13? I mean,
in hindsight, yes, it was worth it, but we could have done it differently. We could have spent less money.
Yeah.
And for example, took a honeymoon. Because we didn't, because we were out of money.
Yeah. And of course, we decided to move house 1 month later, which was a whole different story.
Unexpected.
Quite unexpected.
Yeah.
Anyway, over to you guys. If you could go back 10 years, where were you 10 years ago? And what would you tell your past self? And then, of course, there's the whole question of, would your past self be ready to hear that at that point in time? If your future you from 10 years met with you and talked to you, would you really be able to understand anything that we're saying? Oh, and to close off, maybe one thing I would tell myself 10 years ago, buy Bitcoin.
Yes, definitely.
buy lots of Bitcoin. Then we would have had a bigger wedding and
perhaps
a bigger honeymoon.
Yeah.
Probably.
Maybe.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video together, and I'll see you next week for more SoCards. Looking forward to your answers down below in the questions.